Hi, this is Craig, and this is another mindfulness podcast. The theme for this one is non judgment. And so, non judgment is the basis of mindfulness. It's the only way you can be in the moment. As soon as you judge something, you've gone into your head and you're thinking about what has just happened, or what could happen, or what has happened. So you could say non-judgment is one of the pivotal lessons of mindfulness. Um, so you could say your ego mind, your thinking mind, is your resistance to what is, to what's happening in each moment. So an example could be that you're sitting outdoors in the sunshine and you're enjoying the sunshine on your face, and you may have a positive judgment of this is lovely and warm. I'm really enjoying this sunshine. And that's a positive judgment that's still in the moment. You're fine. You haven't considered the sun to be a threat or anything like that. But as soon as it gets too warm, say the sun just starts blazing down, you might go to yourself, this is too hot. This is too much for me. So then that's the judgment, and that's the resistance to what is. And in that situation, it's actually very good because it's serving you from being burned. You're kind of like, oh, it's getting too hot. I need to go into the shade, or I need to actually do something. So if you can react in the situation to something that's a potential threat, and being sunburnt is a threat, then you're behaving perfectly mindfully and perfectly naturally. So, non judgment doesn't actually mean not judging at all. It means that the judgments that you choose are ones that are useful to you in your current situation, and you deal with it there and then. So, if you're too hot, you go into the shade. If you're too cold, you put a jumper on, those kind of things. No problem with those sorts of judgments. And positive judgments are very fleeting and in the moment. That's a beautiful sunrise. I'm really enjoying that bird's song. You're in the moment with those kinds of judgments. Where the practice of non-judgment comes in is when we're dwelling on things in our mind, where the judgment is actually creating an emotion within us of fear or anxiety or suffering or anger, and these are often associated with a judgmental thought. So you could, for example, be thinking about the time last week when you had strong words with a person, perhaps, either on the phone or maybe you had an argument with someone. And so your mind is constantly judging this situation, even though you're not in an argument at the moment. It happened last week. So your mind is in the past and it's dwelling on it. It's sort of going, oh, I can't believe they said that to me. That's really awful. And if only I'd said that thing in return, that might have, I'd have done well there. And what am I going to do when I see them next? Suddenly your mind is thinking of the future. And it's like, I'm really worried actually about when I see them next. I don't want to apologize. They need to apologize first, and so on and so on. And these are kind of judgments based on the past or the future, and they're not actually real. You could say the sun being hot is real. That's truth because that's your awareness noticing the sun's hot. So that's a good judgment. It's based on a wisdom of awareness. But these other thoughts, they're not based on awareness, they're based on thinking. And they're based on your ego mind being upset because somebody said something that you didn't like last week, which is why you had an argument. So, in those cases, the practice of non judgment comes in. And so, practicing non judgment doesn't mean agreeing with what happened last week, but it is trying to get to an acceptance that it did happen last week and that you're now here in this moment. So, what are you going to do about it? So, if you're in this moment feeling anger because you're still thinking about last week's argument, then you're still judging last week's argument. You haven't let it go yet. You're resisting it. You're no longer in the flow of the universe. You're in last week. You're mulling over the past. And that can be quite damaging for your health. It can make you suffer. We find a lot of rumination occurs when we're in the past, mulling over things, wishing things to be different. If only this had happened, if only that had happened, maybe I'd be happier. But actually, your happiness comes from being in the moment and not thinking and not judging. And actually, the more you practice non-judgment, the happier you'll be. Because judging tends to be your ego, your self, the I, me and my in your sentences, that isn't happy. And so you judge something that outside of you, that's proof that you're unhappy. So someone said something nasty to you, that's proof of why you're unhappy. Or the weather turned really cold, and that's proof that you're unhappy because it foiled your plans for a picnic outside. Blaming other things for your happiness or lack of happiness is a judgment. You can actually be happy right here, right now, just by breathing, just by smiling to yourself, just by giving yourself kindness, and being in the moment. Being in the moment cultivates happiness. Judging cultivates suffering. And it's as simple as that. The more you're in your head, judging things, resisting things, the more you're going to suffer, the more you're going to get angry, annoyed, anxious. These things can lead to stress, these things can lead to illness. So practicing non-judgment is a courageous and bold act that actually brings you back to the moment over and over again. And so if you can let go of judging, then you're back in the moment and you're being mindful and you're just accepting what is going on at the moment. Even if at the moment you're suffering with anger or sadness or loneliness or whatever it is that you're currently in, that is what is going on currently. And your awareness can tune into that without any judgment, and it can give you self-love, and it can give you the right action, what to do to help yourself. And that's conscious, that's awareness, that's awakening. The judgment is subconscious, it's based on your past. And as I detailed in my consumption episode of this podcast series, what we've practiced in the past is what we're doing right now, because our subconscious is 90% of what we're doing most of the time, unless we practice mindfulness and come back to the moment. So, if you're used to mulling over the past, then that's what you tend to do. And any sort of thing that happens to you in the past is something that you chew over, and you're like, I'm really bothered by this and I'm really worried about that. And if only things were different. If only I wasn't sitting here on my own, feeling lonely. I don't want to be lonely. In fact, I hate my loneliness. Why can't I just be like someone else I know who's got a family and is content? These kind of judgments, these comparisons, this beating yourself up for being lonely, the fact that you don't want loneliness, it's all a judgment on things. That judging is not pushing you any forward. It's not changing your relationship with your loneliness. It's not changing your relationship with yourself. You're comparing with other people. So as soon as we go into comparisons, or we start blaming someone else, or we start competing for other people's affections, that's our ego mind. That's our self frightened of the current situation and wanting to change it somehow. Mindfulness is letting go of changing. It's being okay exactly where you are, whether you're sad, lonely, in tears, happy even. We do get happiness occasionally. And the more you practice mindfulness, the happier you will feel. So it's a very strange phenomenon, but letting go of thinking about yourself encourages you to be more comfortable in this world, and you start seeing an interconnectedness to everything. We're all connected. We're not separate to other people. So comparing ourselves is becoming separate. And this separation is not our natural place, and so we suffer as a result. Whereas if we're connected and we're seeing how interrelated we all are, and that if we're putting out kindness and happiness into the world and that is received back, if you're putting out anger and anxiety into the world and that's also received back, this is what the flow of the universe does. It gives you what you think and it gives you what you feel. So if you're manifesting positive energy and positive thinking, then your future will become positive. And if you're more in the moment and letting go of judging, then you find your happiness blossoming. Your joy just starts to bubble up because there's nothing to judge. So the practice of non-judgment is to notice and recognize when we've gone into our ego mind and we're judging something. So notice the I, me, and my in your sentences. I don't like this. I hate that. I wish this was different. I wish. If only I'd done this. If only they'd done that. That's ego. Letting go of those thoughts, coming back to your moment, whether it's your breathing that you're focusing on, or the ground that you're walking on, or your cup of tea that you're drinking, that's mindfulness, that's non-judgment. And the more you practice non-judgment, the lighter you feel. So notice the I, me, and my in your sentences. Notice as well if you're judging something, either on social media or on the news. Notice your reaction rather than the judgment. Notice your emotion behind the judgment. Because actually the judging is just a manifestation of an emotion that's in you and has been dormant in you, and it's just come up again in the moment. And incidentally, the more you judge and blame and criticize, you'll fuel those emotions and they'll become stronger and more violent, and you will not have particularly a much happy life. So you want to be in the moment because that's all there is, and that's where you engage with life. And whatever comes your way, give it kindness. Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat other people up. Don't criticize what's coming to you. Everything is coming to you for a reason. It's a lesson to learn. It's a lesson to be guided along the flow of your path. And each time you get an emotion like anger, notice it, give it some love, be with it, breathe with it, let it go, let the thoughts go. Come back to just being, and you will find that your anger diminishes over time and that you'll get lighter, and the joy and the humour of life will just pervade everything that you do. So non-judgment is a very important practice. So don't hold on to anything for too long. Let go of the past and stop worrying about the future. Notice if you're in the past or the future in your mind, because this is mindfulness, and come back to the moment and you'll be fine. So we're going to practice non-judgment right now in a meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes, be comfortable where you are, notice if you're not comfortable, and instead of judging it, you're just using your awareness to notice that actually if I sit in a certain way, that will be more comfortable. That's wisdom. This is the difference between judging and wisdom. Judging is from your head, and that's blaming and criticizing things. Wisdom is knowing what's good for you, and that's a truth. So I'll strike my little bell just to begin. So just relax. Here we go. So just begin by noticing your breath. Just notice your in-breath and your out-breath. And feel the air going into your lungs on your in-breath. And follow all the way through on your out-breath. Breathing in, you know you're breathing in. Breathing out, you know you're breathing out. Just notice how your body is feeling. Be with your body. Sense any sensations or emotions that might be there. If you do have a pain or an ache or an emotion, don't fight it, don't judge it. Just accept that it's there in this moment. Breathing in awareness of your body. Breathing out calmness to your body. And just smile to yourself, knowing you're giving yourself space just to breathe, just to be. And each time you do this, you're lessening your ego mind. You're coming into your human wisdom. So just take another few conscious breaths. And just when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back to your space. So, just notice when you start to judge things or you start creating what we call storylines in your head. I always give an example of sending a message to someone on your phone, a text message, and after a while you don't get a reply. And so your mind starts analysing this, and it's like, I wonder why I didn't get a reply. Normally I do get a reply, they're very quick normally, this person, but there's no reply. I hope they're okay. Oh, I wonder, maybe it's something I actually said in the text, or let me have a reread. Oh, maybe I was a little bit harsh with what I said in that text, and I used an exclamation mark there. Maybe they didn't like that. Goodness, I hope they like me still. And then a few more days go by and you still haven't received a reply, and you're starting to panic a bit more now. And so your head is over analysing it and judging it, and you're like, oh my god, it was me. That exclamation mark, that's really unhelpful, and maybe I should just ring them, but if I ring them, then maybe they won't pick up, and maybe they don't like me anymore, and I'm judging this situation, and I'm causing myself to get more tense. Do you see, it's a very humorous example, but you see how you can create imaginings and storylines in your head that isn't true, that aren't true. This is true about yourself. We call ourselves names all the time. We beat ourselves up. We call ourselves stupid, or a waste of space, or I haven't done that right, or I wish I was better, or I wish I was more confident, or if only I lost all this weight, or if only I gained more weight. We're never happy just being who we are and where we are in the moment. This is what non-judgment will give you. So trying to let go of storylines and imaginings, just coming back to the facts of the situation, and back to the text. You sent a text, it hasn't been replied. That's what's happened. We have no more evidence to substantiate anything else. Eventually, maybe the person will message you back and say that their phone was on charge, or they'd lost their phone for a few days and then they refound it and that they were overjoyed to hear your text. And so all your worries and all that doubt was for naught. So it is important to stay with the facts, to stay with just what is, just noticing what is going on, noticing how you feel, noticing how you're interacting with people. Notice if you're going into your head judging things. Notice if you're dwelling in the past or worrying about the future, and come back to your moment. Try not to judge. Try not to have storylines. Just be, and everything will unfold perfectly. So, thank you. That was another podcast. That one was on non-judgment. I hope you found it useful. As I say, there's more of these to come, and we're building quite a resource. So, wishing you all well, wishing you wonderful, non-judgmental, peaceful, present moment times, and I will speak to you all soon. Thank you.